The question is how to add beads to your loom knitting project. Hey, it's Denise from loomahead.com, and whether you're adding one tiny bead, a bunch of little beads, or a lot of big beads, you have to start off with the right tools. For this example, I'm going to be using worsted weight yarn. And if you're using, for example, a pony bead, you can feed the bead through the yarn without any need for any special tools or anything. It fits perfectly fine. However, if you want to use a smaller bead like this, well, your basic yarn needle is not going to work. You're going to need to find one that is thin enough to feed through the bead hole and wide enough for you to be able to feed your yarn. So this particular needle works for both the yarn and the bead. As you can see, I can move it around without any problems, and my bead feeds through without any issue. Any size, including the bigger size. So once you have that under control and you're set with your tool, what's the next thing you need to consider? Well, the order of your beads. So the issue is that you have to put all your beads on your strand of yarn before you start knitting. So with that in mind, you have to remember that the last bead that you put in is going to be the first bead that comes out, and that the first bead will be the last one to come out. They're going to knit in that order. So storage is very important. So you're having to work with your yarn, and the weight of the beads has to be considered. So in my case, I'm just going to leave them here on top of the table, but then I only have 6 and the other end of my yarn. So you may want to decide on maybe a little basket or something to put your yarn on. And after you've decided that, next thing is the placement of these beads. So I'm going to put it here, and I want you to notice that I can't put all 3 of these beads in one stitch because I have to put them in between 2 pegs, and so I'm going to put this little one here, and I'm using a U-wrap version of the knit stitch, but it doesn't matter which stitch you use. So I push it and I place it between 2 pegs, and then I knit off. You can do the same thing if you're doing any other version of the knit stitch. Just place your peg in your bead in between your pegs and then knit off, and they're fine. Now the question might be, well, how do I come back and knit my next row when my bead seems a bit taller than it should be for me to work these out? So when I turn around, what I'm going to do with my next stitch is I'm going to take it, and you see I just go basically behind the bead and continue knitting. I don't have to really change anything. They are just going to sit there behind the bead. See? My stitches are right there, and no problem. They fit fine. Now all I'm going to do is I just keep knitting until I'm ready for my next set of beads, or if this is it for you, then you're basically done. You can just finish your knitting and those beads are not going to bother you. Now I'm using a knit stitch for my example, but you can use any stitch, your purl stitch, a garter stitch, whatever you want to use. You can add beads to it and make your project a little more fun, a little more distinct, a little more you. In the comment section, go ahead and let us know how you add beads to your project. And don't forget to like, comment, and if you haven't already done so, depending on where you're watching the video, subscribe.